Hello everyone, it's Lynn. Welcome to the channel. Today I want to talk about offerings for a little bit. As someone who works abstractly with deity, it's not so much that I feel like I have to give offerings to the gods that I may work with, but inside my abstraction, I feel pulled sometimes to give offerings. I also know that the offerings don't have to necessarily be to deities or the gods. In a general sense, this could be to the spirits, you know? And as an animist, I can give certain offerings to certain of the spirits that are around. Animal spirits, plant spirits, land spirits, house spirits, like on top of the gods, okay? The way that I had to deal with the concept of offering was to kind of map out what I would be offering for. And so I kind of I read some things, I read some articles, and of course I read some witchy books. Not on offerings specifically. I would kind of take what I found out and kind of try to put the concept of offerings into a system. And so I feel like I've been successful in that. So I wanted to go over what I do in terms of offerings. And again, like I said, this is for all the beings, not just the gods. So I have divided my offerings into 4 categories to help me, like I said, navigate how I would go about these offerings. And then also answer the question of why. The 4 categories are the elements. Using the elements. Earth, air, fire, and water. The first one is air. And that's what I would consider my smoke offering. And I kind of wanted to touch on use the elements themselves and the correspondences therein to kind of navigate the question of why, or what those offerings would be for. So for smoke, that would be sage bundles, that would be incense, that would be blowing bubbles. But this could also go into the mind realm. So this could be reading aloud. This could be poetry, writing, right? Anything that uses a sort of mental, almost like using the mind in creative ways, but then also in practical ways as well. So those are the types of offerings that I would put in the air category. But then I had to answer the question of why. Why would I give air offerings? And I kind of came up with the word surrender. This is an offering that I would give to certain spirits that I work with, or gods that I work with, or like the goddess that I work with, the goddesses that I work with, to unburden myself, to let certain things go, to allow me to let things go. And I guess in a Christian connotation, because like Roger J. Horn says, most of modern witchcraft comes from Christianity, okay? In a Christian context, this could be the act of surrender, confession. We're unburdening ourselves for the act of cleanliness and possibly even atonement. Okay, and it's probably goes into the if you're harboring certain emotions, or if you're harboring things that bring shame and guilt, right? You can ask the spirits that you work with, or ask the gods the deities that you work with, to help, to aid in unburdening you from those things, and to take the burdens, to shed the burdens with your help, okay? Not that they would do it themselves, but can you aid me in shedding this stuff? Can you aid me in letting this go? Can you aid me in allowing me to eradicate some of these things that I'm harboring? So I like that concept with air. I like the surrender aspect with the air element. And like I said, when I come at the offering, okay, and I'm like, okay, I'm kind of needing help here, the whole thing with offerings is I need help. I work with these spirits, I work with these deities. Maybe I can, get their help with a little bit of it. And so I will sit down, ceremoniously, in sacred space or at your altar or whatever, and I would just go ahead and pick out the air offerings that I would want to use. So say I pick out an intentional incense, or an intentional herb bunch, right? Like I physically make an herb bunch for the intention of letting something go or unburdening myself from such and such and such and such. Then whatever I hand make or just pluck out of the incense drawer, I can take it to the sacred space, light it, and then the smoke, the cool thing about smoke is that it rises. So I can literally visualize the burdens, like even energetically too, coming out of me and rising up with the smoke. So I think that that helps in the surrender aspect and the unburdening. So I like that. That helps me. Also, I did write down singing and dancing as part of the air element as well, because I believe that twirling in any capacity, twirling, movement, even you could say that this is more the body, but I believe in the aspect of swirl, and then of course singing or some kind of music can be an offering as well. So say you want to sing the spirits a song, or you want to twirl and dance to, this is a good way that we manipulate energy too, is by dancing and movement as an energy exchange in the form of an offering as well. So, okay, and the next one is the earth element. This is what the Christians would call the grain element, the grain offering, okay? So, for me, that would be what the Greeks consider aparche, which means first foods. In my opinion, based on what I've read historically, in terms of offerings and sacrifices, these offerings would have been straight from their first harvests. It would have been straight from their harvests. It would have been an actual sacrifice for them to give up their grain or their crops to the gods, okay? It would have actually hurt the yield. And that's the point, is that when we're giving offerings, it does not have to hurt, okay, in terms of like, we're not really giving out our crops anymore, but the burden needs to be kind of there. Or the aspect of giving something that you've like cultivated yourself or you've bought and you're like just, I don't want to say wasting it, because I don't believe that an offering is wasted per se, but I feel like it'd have to be something like that. Like if it was just something sitting around your house that you didn't pay for, or that, it's just like not really, you don't feel that it's important, but you're going to offer it to the gods. That doesn't make sense to me. So for me, these are things that I would get from the earth, and that like most people nowadays don't have like gardens to have crops, and we don't sacrifice animals. It would have to be an aspect of like a portion of your groceries, So say I buy a bag of apples, and I think, okay, to myself, some of those apples will go to the gods. So anyways, like I just want to note that in my opinion, it's like a portion of your groceries if it's in the grain category. For me, that's any type of fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, crops. Like if you were to go out there and like go to farmers markets, those are great areas to get certain fresh fruits, vegetables, and herbs. And then a portion of those that you buy can go to your gods as an aspect of offering, which would have kind of been the same as you cultivating it yourself and then, giving a portion like a tithe. And this could even go into the aspect of seeds. For me, seeds are an important symbol for the earth element. So this could be bird seed that you put out like ritualistically as an offering to the gods, and that when, like giving it to the birds, this could also go into spirit work, okay? Like you're offering to your land spirits by giving back to the birds that live on that land or your yard or your garden. So bird seed is a good one. Regular seeds, like plant seeds, planting new things, you can dedicate those seeds to the gods as a form of offering. And I think that those are powerful. All of those are powerful earth offerings. Now, in terms of the why would I give these, okay, the earth element to me is all on abundance and thanksgiving, okay? So the reason I would pick a grain offering or the earth element offering is to give thanks to the gods. Say you've done some spell work with your deities or your spirits to aid in your budgeting work. Like I've done before. I've instilled the help of my spirits and deity to aid me in coming up with better budgets, having a better relationship with my budget, right? Staying within my means. And so say that that's been working out. So that means that the spell is working. You can give an offering as thanks. You know what? Here's a portion of some groceries that I gave, that I'm giving you. In terms of a dedication. Or you could ritualistically cook them something and then set it out like a dumb supper. I don't think you don't have to only do this as Samhain, but you could do a dumb supper and just lay them out a plate of food that you'll eat later or someone will eat later, okay? I think giving back with any of the offerings in the earth element would, to me, make most sense for thanks for the abundance. Thanks for this prosperity. The next one is fire. These are what some have coined burnt offerings. This is where I might put hearth things. This is things that are actually cooked for possibly things that you, like an actual meal that you cook. Possibly even for me, it's better if it's over an open flame. For me, this would be offerings of anything you're gonna light on fire. You could put cooked items in the fire, but for me, it's easier and better if I can visualize the actual fire element. So if I'm cooking something over an open flame, say on my bonfire and we're roasting some hot dogs or something, then that could be a time of an offering, I'd give one to the gods, Or this could be actual fire, like candles, bonfires that you have inside, hearth magic, right? When you have a fire going, you can dedicate one of the logs or carve something in one of the logs, and then that's your form of offering. And that's actually anyway, you can drop herbs in the fire. You can do all kinds of things with fire. But if you're burning something or having a fire, you can ritualize the setting, offer that fire, that actual whatever fire it is. I also know that cooking oil was one of the offerings back in ancient times. So you could even splash some EVOO on something, or whatever oil you use, canola, vegetable, whatever. If you have a certain cooking oil, mine would probably be olive oil because it kind of links me more to the gods, especially the Greek ones. So you could pour out into a vessel that's on your sacred space, pour out a portion of your cooking oil, and I guess that could be considered an offering as well, in the fire category. So fire. And then the reasons I would use the fire is probably for anything to do with creativity or love, passion. Maybe possibly if you have to apologize for something, I would probably put apology in fire. If I'm giving a fire offering, it would have to go into one of those realms, and that aids me in kind of like I said before, that like I keep saying, this helps me to differentiate the reason why I'm giving the offering, what the things may symbolize, and things like that. There's always an intention to back up the offerings. And then the last one is the water element. And that, for me, would probably come in the form of an actual libation. So this is a vessel that I have set up for the ritualized pouring of water. Priestesses have done this since the beginning of time that we know of in history, okay? The Minoans on Crete in Greece, did actual libations. The Greeks and Romans had libations. And what's interesting about libations is that there's two different kinds. There was a pouring of libations into a vessel, and that was for the gods. But then they may have had a pit or some kind of well that you would ritualistically pour water into the well for chthonic deities. So if you work with a chthonic deity, it might actually benefit you to pour it ritualistically down into the earth so it reaches those gods, And so I like that concept. That actually is called Cho, or I think it's called cho. I think it's pronounced that. It's CHOE. So there's 2 forms of libations, and they both involve like the water element. For me, I might be so inclined to use other things besides water. This could be like an alcohol, some sort of spirit, right? The spirit drinks. Like say you're having a party and you have like a whole thing of sangria, right? Then I might pour a glass of that and pour it out ritualistically as an offering to the gods. But it all depends on like if I'm going to go into the why for the water. Now for me, water is about devotion. It's about love. It's about, and not so much lust and passion like with fire, but for me, this is unconditional love. This is nurturement. This is devotion. This is reverence, right? So when I'm coming at the sacred space or coming at this offering with the purpose of, I want to give this to you because I love you and I'm glad you're in my life. This is a devotional act. Then that's kind of what I would do with my libation or cho offering. So that's how I divide up my offerings. I do want to kind of plug here that depending on what you believe in terms of evocation and invocation, your offerings could be an external manifestation, an external manifestation where you actually leave things out for the god and then just dispose of them how you would. Or this could be an invocation where you're kind of like the catalyst with your deities or the spirits. Invocation is kind of, it's internal. So the offerings would pass through you as like the middleman, the catalyst between you and the spirits or you and the gods. When you're ritualistically ready to give that offering in terms of a libation, you could drink that water, invoke that energy, and then project that out to the spirits or the gods in terms of an invocation, like you're the catalyst, instead of leaving it out externally in terms of an evocation. Well, for instance, fire, the only one that I would like internalize here, unless you breathe fire, is something you've passed through fire. Okay, think of like my s'more spell from my autumn spell video. I made s'mores that passed through the fire ritualistically, the marshmallows and things like that. I can eat that in terms of a fire offering, in terms of invocation, and then like the fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, the grain offering, or the air offering. I could use my own breath. Like if you didn't want to use one of the offerings that I suggested, like incense or herb bundles or things like that, like smokeless, some kind of smokeless air element offering, smoke and smokeless air offerings that I suggested, you could even use your own breath as a way to like be an invocation air offering. So there's a million ways to do offerings. I just like the way that I can divide them into these 4 sections. That really helps me to know that when I come at when I come at the spirits or the gods, sometimes it felt like in the beginning before I did this differentiation, it kind of felt like, well, what do I give them now? What do I do now? Like, oh, I mean, you could do what you have on hand, okay? But I always have most of these things on the list. I always have water. I always have olive oil. I always have some sort of fresh fruit and vegetable. I always have incense, and I always have tea light candles. Those are the most ones I use. So those are things that I already have in my house. So it's not necessarily I have to go out and like purchase a big batch of all the stuff that I don't utilize. So it's not like that. But I guess for me, you use what you have on hand. But before, I would say, well, I want to give thanks, so I guess I'll just light this piece of incense, or I have this piece of fruit, or I have this, I have these seeds because it's spring and I bought them at the store, like whatever. So it always kind of felt like they didn't have enough meaning when I'm sure that they did. So those are a little bit of my thoughts about offerings. So let me know your thoughts. I hope everyone's having a great day. Much love.